On this edition of the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford.
You don't want to go through a season where you're not having an opportunity to play in the playoffs, but you use it for a good growth experience too.
So when you set the wall, you got to set the wall, use your hands, and get off of blocks.
I think for Saquon, can we please feed him? Can we just give him 25 carries, please?
I don't care if it's the last game of the season. Anytime you play the Eagles, it is a big game.
Welcome you to another edition of the Coach Daboll Show presented by Ford. I'm Bob Papa. Giants wrap up their regular season on Sunday at home against the Philadelphia Eagles. We got a lot of ground to cover. As always, I'm joined by two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks and the head coach of the New York Giants, Brian Daboll. And Coach, like the Christmas Day game, the Rams game, many opportunities. What's your takeaway from this football game as you look at the way your team competed?
Yeah, disappointed, obviously, the result. Guys competed hard. Had a number of opportunities that, give the Rams credit. But it was one of those close NFL games that, unfortunately we came up on the short side of it.
Coach, this offensive group has not had a lot of time together on the field. And you kind of, if you're an outsider fan looking in, you kind of see what the potential is for this offense to evolve, because there were a variety of different styles of offense. There were deep balls, there were, I don't want to call them gadget plays, but plays of opportunity.
Sure.
And so is that something that you look at and you say, okay, we just got to execute, because there is some stuff there that people just didn't have answers for?
Yeah, I thought the offensive coaches did a nice job of the game plan. We did have, I'd say, a number of guys open. Again, you want to try to attack in the pass game all three levels of the field, vertically, intermediate, and then, short catch and run. So I thought there were some of those. Had a couple good runs, can still improve on the running game, but you want to try to make a defense defend every inch of the grass.
Coach, another thing, you were able to get the ball back late in the game when you needed to. Not once, but twice. Olszewski gives you a big spark with that punt return. That's something that's been missing from this team, not only this year, but last year, return game. How important is that to continue to develop that mindset?
Yeah, it's huge. It's one less first down, or maybe even more than that if you have a good punt returner back there. He's been a good addition to our team. It was good to see him get that big one.
Coach, obviously this week you're playing Philadelphia. You played them just 2 weeks ago. Does a lot change in 2 weeks, or is it just we got to execute? Yeah,
a lot. There's really, they've had the one game, and obviously look at our game quite a bit. But teams are kind of what they are right now, and looking forward to trying to play a really good game this upcoming Sunday against a division team.
Coach, obviously the season's not gone the way you wanted it to. You're not in the postseason you were last year. But the fact that you're playing against these opponents that have a lot on the line, and Philadelphia is trying to win the division, is that an important sort of measuring stick for as you evaluate players and you move into the offseason of, all right, who's all in on this stuff?
Well, I think it's important to go out there and compete at a high level, regardless if you're in it, you're not in it. Competitive stamina, toughness, mental toughness, physical toughness. You don't want to go through a season where you're not having an opportunity to play in the playoffs, but you use it for a good growth experience too, to continue to build your culture, your program, with things that are very important. Call it core characteristics that are important to your team, to your organization. And I'd say, there's a lot of young guys too that are, continuing to grow, continuing to learn. So it'll be a big week for us.
Some of your core leaders like Dexter Lawrence and Andrew Thomas and what Saquon's been able to do, leading by example has to be very important as well with Okereke, what they're putting on tape but showing their teammates. This is how you be a professional.
Yeah, no doubt about it. One of our mantras is to be a pro. So their commitment to one another, to how they prepare, to how they practice, that hasn't wavered. There's been a good consistency with that. Certainly things we can all do better, on Sunday or Monday or whenever it is that we play to get the results that we want. But the foundation of, again, commitment, discipline, doing things right, even when there's, tough times, that's a good learning tool to take with us here as we get into the off season.
Coach, we appreciate you doing this each and every week. I know the fans appreciate it as well, and I know you'll be diving right into the offseason as soon as this game ends, but one more to go.
One more. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
That's the head coach of the New York Giants, Brian Daboll. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we'll look at the recap of the Giants and Rams here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. The Giants wrap up their regular season at home against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Giants played the Rams on New Year's Eve, and what a game it was. Here's the game recap.
The final day of 2023. Happy New Year to all the gray skies here in East Rutherford, New Jersey, as the Giants take on the Los Angeles Rams. Taylor takes the snap, five-man rush. Taylor retreats, rolls right, throws it to the right sideline, completes it along the sideline of Hyatt, and he gets pushed out of bounds. They run an end around to Wan'Dale Robinson. Robinson to the 20, Robinson to the 15, Robinson to the 10, to the 5. Robinson near the goal line, touchdown for Wan'Dale Robinson on a 24-yard run. His first career rushing touchdown, and the Giants are an extra point away from tying it with 13:03 to go. Stafford over center. Deep drop, pumps, he's under pressure, he's chasing behind, sacked by Okereke. Back at the 34-yard line. Bobby Okereke with his first sack of the season.
Boy, that's a big sack there, too, but that's you credit the coverage on the back end there.
The snap to Stafford, back to throw, zips it over the middle, high and nearly intercepted. The Giants are acting as if they did Dane Belton, and they're ruling it an interception at the 38-yard line. Stafford just overthrew Nakua. 107 to work with and 2 timeouts, leading 14-7. Sidearms it over the middle. Robinson makes the catch, runs away from Jackson. Fumbled the football. Jackson punched it out, and the Giants have it. Belton recovered it.
Boy, that's just a great play there by Adoree Jackson. Just hustles there, gets back into play, and punches it out.
Crosby set. Snap is good. Kick on its way. A line drive, and it is through. So at the half, Rams 14, Giants 10. First and 10 for the Giant 20. Here in the third, Rams by 10, 20-10. Late pressure. Giants pick it up. Taylor's going to throw a deep ball for Slayton down the right side. Slayton makes the catch on the run. 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Giants! 80 yards! Tyrod Taylor to Darius Slayton, and the Giants are right back in it.
I mean, Slayton is just gliding down the field. He locates the ball, hits another gear, and runs right up under it. That's a good job by Taylor of laying it out there.
Stafford back to throw, 3-step drop, now lobs one high over the middle, intercepted. Threw it right to Dane Belton, breaks left to the sideline, and chased out of bounds at the Rams' 33-yard line. Dane Belton with his second pick of the ball game, and he's got a fumble recovery. And Evans gets it away. It's a spiraling kick. Oshesky fields it at the 6-yard line. Runs right to the 15, needs a block at the 20, spins ahead and runs out of a tackle, and still going. Oshesky up the right sideline, being chased by the punter, needs a block. He's to the 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown! Gunnar Oshesky, 94 yards! Rams have a 3rd and 9 at their own 26-yard line. Can they get the stop and get the ball back? Stafford calls signals. Game. Taylor in a shotgun set. Barkley in motion right. Taylor back to throw. Flushed out of the pocket. Rolls to his right. He's going to run. Taylor across midfield. Taylor to the 40, to the 35, and slides to safety at the Rams' 32-yard line. Now will the Giants spike it here?
Yep.
Now they move it all the way back to the 34. Taylor calls signals, spikes it. 33-yard run for Taylor. Mason Crosby is going to try a 54-yard field goal with 35 seconds left to give the Giants the lead. Snap, spot, kick on its way. It's a line drive kick. Will it get there? It is no good. Wide left with 30 seconds to go.
Obviously, the Giants had some opportunities in that football game, but not able to seal the deal. When we come back, head-to-head with Paul Dottino and Sean O'Hara here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. It's the Giants and Eagles at MetLife Stadium. Time to take a look at head-to-head with Paul Dottino and Sean O'Hara.
Okay, so let's go head-to-head for the Giants and Eagles in the rematch that finishes out the season. Sean, we're going to start with Jalen Carter against Saquon Barkley. Now, Carter has had a great rookie season despite only playing in 51% of the Eagles' snaps. He's fifth among NFL rookies with 6 sacks, had a 42-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown against Dallas so he can make big plays. And by the way, tackles for losses, quarterback hits, and sacks, he's had at least one of those in 11 out of the 15 games he's played so far this year. Saquon Barkley knows you got to keep an eye on him.
I mean, he's a dog, to be completely honest. He could take over a game. He's good in the run game, good in the pass game. I don't know how he fell that far in the draft, and especially at Philly, but kudos to them. They got a really good player who's going to be a great player for a long time.
When we're trying to get a running game going against a player like that, and we always talk about pounding the rock until you can finally make it crack. Is that the kind of guy, though, that you can wear down because he is so athletic and so young? It would seem to me that's kind of hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like any time you get in a game and you can make it a physical game, and you can get some tempo going, you can lean on guys, and continue to create positive plays in the running game. It's going to open things up just against anybody, to be honest. But he's a tough defender. We definitely got to know where he at. Definitely try to get double teams on him, and it also helps that he got 4 or 5 other really good players next to him too, and great players on the back end. So we know the type of challenge is going to be every time we go against a team like Philly, and especially now that they have a guy like Jalen, they still have unbelievable guys like Hassan, Fletch, and the list goes on and on.
This is an interesting matchup because we're matching a running back up against a defensive tackle. Now, I would always say that it's the offensive line's job to handle Jalen Carter and handle the defensive tackles. But in this case, for Saquon, obviously, you've got a really good player in Jalen Carter. He is a rookie. You mentioned the 51% in plays. That's not because of his talent. That's just because of the talent that's around him. So he's fighting for reps on the field because Philly is so loaded at that defensive line position. But the thing about Jalen Carter is, for as big of a guy as he is so quick. He's got great lateral quickness. He had a big tackle for a loss against the Minnesota Vikings where he kind of backdoored the center. So, again, that'll be John Michael Schmitz, who's going to have to handle that before he gets to Saquon. And then when you look at Ben Bredesen, his challenge is going to be, one of his other tackles for loss was just a simple down block by a guard. It was against Buffalo, where he just beats the guard on a down block and just showed his quickness there and makes a tackle for a loss in the backfield. So he's doing a great job as a rookie of reading these plays. For Saquon, you don't want your running back to have to dodge a defender in the hole or dodge a defensive tackle. But this is where I think Saquon can really kind of try to exploit this Eagles defensive line, and certainly Jalen Carter, who loves to get penetration. So I think if Saquon can really get outside of the defensive tackles, press the ball outside and run away from some of this quickness and some of this size, that's really what it's going to come down to. This will be a big opportunity. I think for Saquon, can we please feed him? Can we just give him 25 carries, please? Just let him take over the game. Let him carry the workload. I think Saquon, he knows right now he's 84 yards from 1,000 yards. That's kind of like the benchmark. Yeah. Every offense goes into it, and every running back goes in every season saying, that's the benchmark. I want to get to 1,000. He needs 84 yards. Let's get it to him in the first half.
One item, though, that you mentioned about how you might want to run against this Eagles line, the Giants are 6th in the NFL, running the ball 129 times directly up the middle, which would put these guys right in each other's sights.
Yeah, a little trap, a little inside trap, maybe a little wham play. All right, let's give this young buck something to think about. Head on a swivel.
All right, next up. We're going to go with Dallas Goedert against Xavier McKinney. Now, Goedert has tied his career high this year with 58 catches. 4 of his 6 years in the NFL, he's caught at least 55 passes. So, Sean, he's been incredibly consistent. Now, what did he do against the Giants just a couple of weeks ago? 7 grabs for 71 yards. He didn't reach the end zone. Well, by the way, he did that in the playoff game against the Giants last year. McKinney needs to keep an eye on him.
Yeah, I think he's one of the premier tight ends in this league. He's able to run good routes. He can run, and he's got great hands. He's a physical tight end, and he's pretty well-rounded, like just all around. So he's definitely a difference maker and a playmaker for their team and in this league. So I think that's kind of the challenges that you face when you face him.
Well, Xavier McKinney has been the Giants' best cover corner / safety. He's been the best coverage defender all season long, and the Giants are going to need him. They're going to need the sticky coverage on Dallas Goedert. You mentioned the last time that he played, he had 7 catches, 71 yards. He was averaging 10 yards a catch. So this is something that Xavier McKinney, like he knows the routes, he understands and Goedert and how he wants to use his body. Goedert had a really nice catch actually against Xavier McKinney in the last game. And it was great coverage by McKinney. He was right in the hip. It was just a perfect throw. I think when you go back and you look at Xavier McKinney, where he really has excelled this year has been in the red zone. And you go back to the game against Miami, he had a big pass breakup in the red zone, basically forced an incompletion by batting the ball down. It should have been a touchdown. So I think Xavier does a really good job in the red zone where everything kind of happens a little bit quicker. It's not quite as much space, but he does a great job anticipating those throws. So for this matchup, Xavier McKinney, the biggest thing for him is I think he gets in trouble when he gives up too much cushion. And Philly took advantage of that in our last game. It was a 4th and 5, and he had a really big cushion. He was 15 yards off of Dallas Goedert, and it was a simple pitch and catch from Jalen Hurts to Dallas Goedert. So I would like to see Xavier in more of a press kind of mode. Get up on Goedert. Go ahead and get physical with him. Get your hands on him. That's why you put a safety on a tight end, because you have a little bit of a faster guy, but the safeties are bigger than a corner or a third corner. So use that physical aspect of it. And look, Xavier McKinney, he's been one of our best defensive players and most consistent defensive players for a couple of years now. So I think this is a great matchup in the Giants' favor. For X, let's see. I want to see him get his 2nd interception. He has 1 interception against the Patriots from earlier this year. Yeah. He's had a couple of other opportunities. I think he would love nothing better than to intercept Jalen Hurts and take the Dirty Birds down.
All right. Well, that'll do it for head-to-head. Let's go back to Bob.
Carl, obviously Saquon Barkley had 80 yards rushing against the Eagles on Christmas. It was hard sledding, but the Giants have to continue to pound that against that Eagles front.
Well, yeah, you do have to establish some semblance of a run game in order to get your play action pass going. And I think just the effort and the deliberateness of running the football allowed them to stay in this game, and they'll have to do it again.
Another matchup that's important, we saw it with Dallas Goedert on Christmas, and then we saw it with Higbee last week against the Rams. The tight ends have become valuable weapons against the Giants. How do the Giants sort of take that away a little bit more?
Well, what you have to do, you have to assess who's the most dangerous players, and you take your chances on certain situations. And I think as the game went on, you started to see the defense focus a little bit more with Isaiah Simmons on the tight end, and that took that away. So you have to assess it because Philadelphia is so talented across the board with their skilled positions, and some guys can move the chains, other guys can flip the field. And what you'd rather sacrifice is those guys who can move the chains versus a 70 or 80-yard pass.
Plus, as of this recording, we're going to know the status of Devontae Smith. He left Lincoln Financial Field in a walking boot after the loss to the Arizona Cardinals, so that could be a factor as well. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, over, under, and much more here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford.
We are set for today's game. Akers, a left-footed kicker, gets into the ball, and it's a good lining kick. Dixon will take it from his own 4. Up to the 10, 15, breaks right 20, 25, 30. There goes Dixon to the outside. It's a foot race. Ron Dixon in midfield. Ron Dixon's going to score. 10-5, touchdown. And Giant Stadium is ready to explode. McNabb again over center. Drops drops straight back. Giants on a blitz. McNabb hit as he throws, swings it right, and the pass nearly it is intercepted by Sehorn. He's got it on the run, down the left sideline, cuts it at the 10, 5, touchdown!
He batted it first. Somehow it did not hit the ground, and then he captured it, took it down the far sideline.
Jason Sehorn gives the Giants a 16-0 lead.
Hey, I've never seen a play like that, man. Hey, Jay, I've never seen anything like that.
Obviously, Jason Sehorn, Ron Dixon, some game-defining plays at home against the Philadelphia Eagles. As we welcome you back to the Coach Daboll Show presented by Ford. Time for Over Under with Madeline Burke, Sean O'Hara, and Amani Toomer.
Time for a Week 18 Over-Under brought to you by the New York Lottery. The season finale of the game. You know the rules by now. We'll throw out a number and we'll decide if we think the Giants will go over or under when the Giants host the Eagles at MetLife on Sunday. Sean, I'm going to start with you here. Over under 2.5 defensive takeaways by this Giants team.
I like this, and I'm going to take the over. 2.5 is a lot. I get it. But you go back to the Week 16 game, we had an interception on Jalen Hurts and a forced fumble on Boston Scott. So that's 2 right there. I think Jalen Hurts has been very charitable. He's really struggled from the pocket. He's got 14 interceptions on the season. And last year he was phenomenal from the pocket. This year he seems to be struggling. So I'm going to take the over on that. And listen, why not take one of them to the house too? Let's get some extra points.
Absolutely. I'm with you. I think we're simpatico on this. I think we're going to go over. There's a weather situation that might be going on this weekend. So the Giants have an opportunity to get over the 2.5. It's always that half. Yeah. But I have confidence this weekend.
It's the half that gets you. And I'm going to go under only because, Sean, you mentioned the Boston Scott moment. That was a special teams play, too.
Yes,
so I think that the Giants special teams, which coming off a great special teams performance last week, could have some, opportunity there as well. So defensively, I'm thinking 2 is the sweet spot for me. I'll take the under. All right, Amani, over or under? We're going wide receiver here. Over under 1.5 50 or more yard catches by Darius Slayton.
Ooh, I'm gonna go over because I like the half, and I like when you have Tyrod Taylor back there, it just makes the entire offense a lot more vertical because he's so adept at throwing the deep ball. I love the fact that Darius Slayton has been getting open deep. I think this is something that we're going to see now, this weekend, and we're going to see into the future. Darius Slayton catching the ball deep behind the defense.
Yeah, I like Darius Slayton get behind this defense of the Eagles, so I'm taking the over as well. This Eagles secondary is not the same defense that we saw the year before.
Yes.
2022, they were the #1 pass defense in the league. This defense has given up a ton of big plays. So I think we have our own big play Slay, and Darius Slayton who's playing in this game. Darius Slay, I don't think is going to play in this game for the Eagles. He's been banged up, so I like the fact that he's out. We've got our guy. And listen, here's my challenge. I say, let's get this in the first half. I want to see over 1.5 deep catches in the first half. Let's not wait till the fourth quarter, game on the line, to have that moon ball come out of Tyrod Taylor's hand. But I like the way Slayton's making these big-time plays. He's getting open. We just got to find a way to get him the rock.
Absolutely. And, Darius Slayton's had back-to-back weeks where he's had 69 or more yard touchdown receptions. So we're just looking for catches, 50 or more yard catches. Give me the over as well across the board. Let's see it. Send it down the field. All right, finally, Sean, over under 3 sacks from the Giants linebackers or secondary?
I'm going to go under on this one. I think there's going to be some pressure on Jalen Hurts, and we're going to definitely bring a lot of blitzes. But Jalen Hurts has done a great job of getting away from that unblocked defender. Jason Pinnock had a shot at a sack on him in Week 16. Even Xavier McKinney came free as an unblocked defender on a blitz, and Jalen was able to kind of shake free. So even just getting somebody in the backfield and having the opportunity to sack Jalen Hurts doesn't always guarantee you that you're going to get it down. So I'll take the under from a linebacker secondary perspective, but we're not including Dexter Lawrence, so you can have fun with that.
Kayvon Thibodeau, he's a linebacker.
Depending on the front, yes.
Okay, all right. So that, including him, I think he's going to have a big game this weekend. One thing we know about Jalen Hurts this entire season is he has been hobbled by injuries and slowed him down a lot, which makes him much more susceptible to being sacked. So I'm going to go on the over on this because I feel like the secondary, including Thibodeau, in the linebacking core, I think we're going to go over that.
All right.
I'm going to take the under on this one, too, because I do think that it's going to be close. But like you said, Hurts has been hampered a little bit, but that offensive line that the Eagles have has been so strong and so stout week in and week out. I just think that being behind that offensive line is a security blanket that even a banged-up Jalen Hurts can keep safe behind. But that's a wrap for us.
All right.
Over under Week 18, Giants-Eagles, Sunday at MetLife Stadium. We'll see how it all pans out. That's a wrap for Over Under, brought to you by the New York Lottery. Let's send it back to Bob.
Carl, the Giants hit a deep ball to Darius Slayton against Philadelphia. He gets another one against the Rams. That's something that has to be part of this offense, whether you hit it or not, doesn't it?
Yeah, because when you have Jalen Hyatt and Darius Slayton, who's a legitimate threat to go deep, you've got to keep a safety back. And that means that makes the box a little lighter. And if teams want to play cover 2, they can still hit it. But if you go single high, those guys are going to go vertical.
And listen, we know the Giants have struggled offensively throughout the course of the season, so the ability to be opportunistic and take the football away for the defense to give the offense chances, not necessarily, 76-yard interception returns for touchdowns. They're nice, but at least give the offense more chances.
Well, that's complementary football, Bob. When you have a offense that, let's face it, they have some challenges. And what you want to do is to continue to give them opportunities. And that's what good defenses do. If the defense is the strong part of your team, then you say, okay, let's just continue to create field position for the offense.
We'll look at some of the matchups on Coach's Tape. When we come back, Carl Banks with strategy here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Bob Papa, 2-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks. Time for strategy. Giants play the Eagles for the second time in 3 weeks. And Carl, Philadelphia was able to get a run game going against the Giants on Christmas, and the Giants have to be better against the run to keep the Eagles off schedule.
Yeah, Bob, the Philadelphia Eagles are a big, strong offensive line. You've got to be able to set a wall, control gaps, and get off blocks. So it's 3 things you have to do during the course of a play because they're very smart runners and they know how to find the gaps. Here, we'll see at the point of attack here, point of attack here, right? Outside, inside. Here's your guy that's got to get off blocks because if these 2 guys get off a block, the wall is set. As we run this and the play comes, he pulls off and makes this a single. He's got to be able to now control this block. He's controlled on the edge, and so everybody's occupied. I'll freeze it. Everybody's occupied, but he's sealed off, and no one player can make this play in the hole. So nobody's off a block, and he's through to your secondary. So when you set the wall, you've got to set the wall, use your hands, and get off of blocks. Here's another classic example. You got to set an edge here, but when they run a dual block, edge is set. His eyes are outside, right? So as the play comes, now they use 2 to kick him out. You got a linebacker here who's got to set the wall, and you got a linebacker here who's got to play square. But then again, right here in the middle of your defense is where the key to this defensive play, succeeding or failing, he gets held, and now he's blocked off. There's a wall here, and you got a linebacker to defend a 2-way go. So what happens? They double team here on the edge. So the edge is set, but they kick it out just similar to what San Francisco does. They just push it as wide as possible to make it difficult for one guy to defend the play. And there he goes. He takes one side, and then here's poor tackling. You got to make tackles. So point of attack, you've got to have gap responsibilities, but you got to be able to get off of blocks.
Now we're going to take a look at Philadelphia. And Carl, like the Rams, who they played last week, team that relies on a lot of concepts.
A lot of concepts, not complex concepts, but they will exploit your defense. And here, this is just a simple in cut. But as we look at it, you've got outside technique here, which means they want to funnel everything into the safety here. He's got outside technique on the slot with help, but when the help doesn't get there, this guy's got to be in this window here because he's got outside technique, forcing it into him. The safety is over the top here, And so what you end up with is a guy in no man's land looking back at the quarterback, and the window is right here where they throw the football. He catches it, and there's nowhere else to run. So knowing your responsibility is the big part of this, because everybody's occupied and everybody has a job. And when you have to be in a window, you can't get caught.
Well, we're going to take another look at what they do schematically to put the defense in a bind.
Here it is again, Bob. Now, this looks like a cover 4. And that means this guy has to be outside because it's a 2-deep zone, but this safety is all the way over the top. And we take a look, and if you got a safety who's basically helping out on Brown, this guy has to be all the way out here so that this ball on an out-breaking route is not caught. Safety's occupied and there's no one there. So understanding the defense and knowing what your responsibilities are is the key.
Well, that's a look at what the Giants are going to have to deal with, and obviously they got a snapshot of it on Christmas Day just 2 weeks ago. For Carl Banks, I'm Bob Papa. When we come back on the program, Above the Numbers with Paul Dottino and Amani Toomer here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford.
In Week 4 of the 2007 season, the Big Blue defense continued a tradition of feasting on Eagles quarterbacks. Osi Umenyiora and Michael Strahan would be part of a historic night against the Eagles.
Steps up under pressure, and he's sacked by Michael Strahan, and there's the record, the New York Giants record, 133.5, and he does it with Lawrence Taylor in the house.
The thing I'm most proud of is bringing LT's Giant single-season sack record. That right there was the crowning moment of my career, because he was the greatest defensive player to ever play.
Strahan is the best ever in everything.
If there's ever been any player who I've ever played with who is more like me on and off the field, it's Osi. Osi and I truly have a bond that I've never had with any other player.
I've seen you. You are the best. You are better than me. All right? They can't touch you.
The torch would continue to pass as the night went on, with Strahan's protege Osi Umenyiora setting the Giants' single-game sack record with 6 takedowns of Donovan McNabb.
McNabb takes the snap, drops back under pressure, sack! McNabb flushed out to his right, gets dragged down by Osi Umenyiora. Gets sacked by Umenyiora!
New team record by Umenyiora.
Sack number 6 for Osi.
I've had games where I got to the quarterback more times than that, but they just weren't sacks. And this particular game, every single time I got to the quarterback, it was a sack. It was absolutely amazing.
I'm not worthy. I am not worthy.
It certainly was a sackathon, a record-setting night as the Giants knocked off the Eagles at Giant Stadium. As we welcome you back to the Coach Daboll Show presented by Ford, it is time for this week's edition of Above the Numbers with Paul Dottino and Amani Toomer.
Okay, so let's go above the numbers for the Giants and the Eagles coming up on Sunday. Amani, who do we have first?
Oh, this is one of my favorite young players on this team. He has about 21 more catches than I had. He has about 350 some odd yards more than I had my entire rookie season. This guy just makes plays. I love the fact that he has the speed to open it up. Now I want to see him come into a big game versus the Eagles. I don't care if it's the last game of the season. Anytime you play the Eagles, it is a big game. I want to see what he did down in Tennessee versus Alabama with the 5 touchdowns. Let it happen this weekend. I want Jalen Hyatt to go bug nitty this weekend and show us all what possibly this guy could be. He could be a Pro Bowler. He could be an All-Pro. He has that kind of ability. I'm dying to see what Jalen Hyatt's going to do this weekend and in the future, because he's the deep route guy. I want to see him work on the more mid-range, because this is a guy that could really be a difference maker for the Giants.
So you're excited about him?
I am 100% excited about Jalen Hyatt.
I'm just making sure.
Okay, all right.
He started 6 straight games going into this game against Philly. Over that time, 18 targets, 11 catches for 164 yards. But believe it or not, 2 weeks ago in Philadelphia, Amani, he did not have a target.
He's due.
On 35 snaps.
He's due.
So the Eagles really don't know what he can do. I will tell you this, though. Of NFL players who have at least 20 catches this year, his yards per catch, you see 16.7 over there? That ranks 9th in the league. So he has clearly become one of the better deep threats in the NFL.
Can you say playmaker? Anyway, who do you got?
All right, I'm going to defense. Kayvon Thibodeau. Now, we know he's had a really terrific season, right? 11.5 sacks, number 5 among NFL linebackers. He's tied for the Giants' lead with 12 tackles for a loss. I mean, there's no question that he's really had a good season. Now, when the Giants won that 3-game stretch where they won 3 in a row, he had at least part of a sack in each one of those games, and it was like he was really on a roll. But now in each of the last 3 weeks, he's been held without a sack and without a tackle for a loss. So he's slowed down a little bit here at the end. That's why I wanted to pick him to go above the numbers, because I'd love to see him get a TFL and a sack or 2 and maybe a forced fumble against the people from Philadelphia.
Hey, teams are smart. When they see this guy, Thibodeau, getting all these sacks, causing his team to win, they start rotating the coverage. And every time you line up, you have to know where number 5 is, and that's why you get slowed down sometimes. Somebody on the other side, Ojulari, may need to come and balance out this rushing attack. But Thibodeau definitely had a strong season. Very excited to see what he's going to do for in blue in the future.
Yeah, he had 1 quarterback hit at the game in Philadelphia a couple of weeks ago. All right. Below the numbers. I'm going to let you start off because he plays your favorite position.
Oh, he does. He plays my favorite position, and I hate to say it, I like the way he plays, but not against the Giants, not this week. Maybe they're going to rest him. You know, they're going to the playoffs. You know, they might win the division, they might not. But it doesn't matter. This guy is a problem. Look at this. 105, 1,400 yards. That is a problem. 7 touchdowns. Just have him stay right here. Don't go over this. Stay right here and allow this Giants team to come up with this victory, because it would be a great way to go into the offseason with it on a high note. And stopping him, I think, will be a big part of that.
All right, let's start with the numbers you just talked about. 3rd, believe it or not, in receiving yardage this year in the league. 5th in catches. All right, you've already pointed those things out. I would also add 7 drops.
Okay, yeah, we're starting.
I thought he would like that. We threw it in. 7 100-plus yard games during the course of the season. Now, 5 straight, though, without catching a touchdown pass. We're going to see now if they can keep him out of the end zone again this weekend.
They have to. He's got a big blue in numbers.
That'll do it. Let's go back to Bob.
Carl, obviously A.J. Brown is a guy that can wreck a game. He's fast, he's powerful, he's strong with the football. That's got to be a key for the Giants, to not let him go crazy in this game.
Well, Bob, that is kind of the challenge for every defense that faces A.J. Brown, because he's so gifted. But it's not just his speed, but it's his competitiveness, too. He's a physical guy, and he's got a lot of competitiveness, so he's not an easy tackle whenever he gets the ball.
Yeah, and then you take a look at Jalen Hyatt, on the first 3rd down of the game last week against the Rams. Should have been for a big play. Doesn't secure the football, but that can't scare the Giants from going back to him, right?
No, and it did not deter them. They came back a couple times on deep routes, not just to him, but to Darius Slayton.
And the Giants have to manufacture a pass rush one way or another against Jalen Hurts, speed up his rhythm a little bit.
Well, I think the blitz bothered him the last time they played, and I think they'll continue, because I think that is the rhythm that this defense is in, to apply pressure to the opponent.
When we come back on the program, we'll have 3 things and final thoughts on the Giants and Philadelphia Eagles here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Time for this week's edition of 3 Things with Madeline Burke.
It's week 18 and the Giants are back at MetLife to host the Eagles in the season finale. I'm Madeline Burke with 3 things you need to know. Giants running back Saquon Barkley has moved up to 4th all-time in Giants rushing yards with 5,165 yards on the ground in his career. He's behind only Tiki Barber, Rodney Hampton, and Joe Morris on the all-time list.
And Gunnar Olszewski has been named NFC Player of the Week after his 94-yard punt return for a touchdown, the second longest return in Giants franchise history and the longest in 95 years. On September 30th, 1928, Al Bloodgood scored on a 95-yard return in a season-opening road game against the Pottsville Maroons. And the NFC East hasn't seen a repeat division champion in 18 years, not since the Eagles won the division from 2001 to 2004. But if the Eagles win Sunday and the Cowboys lose to the Commanders, the Eagles will win the division for the second year in a row. That's a wrap for 3 things you need to know for Week 18. I'm Madeline Burke. Let's send it back to Bob.
Carl, obviously, the Giants are looking for one more win to end the season, mess things up for Philadelphia. The Eagles game and Giants and the Cowboys in Washington going to be going on at the same time. But how important is it for this team to get one more win here down the stretch?
Well, it's important because, number one, it's a division game. Number two, you've got to finish. You've had 2 really good effort games. Now, this third one, you got to put it all together and come away with a victory. You know who your opponent is, and you've got to just put it together and come away with a victory.
Yeah, and 60 minutes of football, right? Because we have seen the Philadelphia Eagles against the Giants, against Arizona last week, and some other games here where they're struggling. They're not finishing games. They're gettable late in these football games, and the Giants have to make sure they're in a position to get the game when it gets late.
Yeah, and not get got. You know, this is like, you can't be the get-right game for the Philadelphia Eagles as they try to get into some type of rhythm going into the playoffs. You got to look at this as you're playing playoff caliber team, play playoff caliber football, and come away with it.
I know you and your teammates, after the bitter loss in 1985 to the Bears in the postseason, use that as motivation going into the offseason. In today's NFL, with the roster turnover that exists due to free agency and salary cap reasons, do you still think there's that momentum that can carry into the next season?
Yeah, but because what you have are young players that are going to be on the roster. They can't turn over 53 guys. They're just now starting to turn the roster over. This is the second year into that, so they're going to make some additions. You have a Bobby Okereke, you have a Micah McFadden, you have a Dexter Lawrence, you have an Andrew Thomas, and you have a John Michael Schmidt. So there are some core pieces here that are part of something, the competitive nature of this team, and that's gonna, whatever you bring in, those are the guys that are going to be, Deonte Banks as well. Those are the guys that are going to be the messengers of what this culture is about.
Yeah, and we saw what the Lions did last year, having been eliminated from the playoffs and then going to Lambeau Field on Sunday Night Football and winning the game, and that was a springboard for this year for Detroit. So the Giants are looking for that. Plus, let's face it, they have not had great success against the Eagles. What better way to end the season than beating Philadelphia? This week's game between the Giants and Eagles is presented by Moderna, a proud partner of the New York Giants. Make sure after the game you check out Giants Postgame Live, all the reaction, press conference as the Giants take on the Eagles. So for Carl Banks, Coach Daboll, and our entire crew, we hope you enjoyed this journey through the 2023 NFL season here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford.